Hello everyone and welcome. In this video series, we're going to explore Agentic AI and the core foundational concepts behind it, tools, orchestration, and state. We'll understand these concepts through a real-world use case, and later we'll implement by using LangGraph. But before we jump into the implementation, we need to build a strong foundation. So let's start with a simple question. Have you ever thought about the difference between generative AI and Agentic AI? Take a moment and think about it. Let's start with something we all familiar with, generative AI. If you have a PDF document and you want a summary out of it, you can use ChatGPT or Gemini and it will generate that summary for us. Or if you ask, write a paragraph about the Big Bang, it will generate that as well. In all these cases, the model is taking the input and generating the output. That's why it's generative AI. Now let's take a look at how things work today in real enterprise systems. In a typical customer support center, a large number of customer emails are received every day. These emails are handled by the support analyst or operations team. And if you look at their end-to-end flow, when an email is received, a support analyst will read the email and understand the issue and interpret the sentiment of the email and determines the urgency of the email, whether it is a high priority one, medium priority, or low priority one. So based on that, they will escalate to the right team. And before they're creating any new ticket, first they will actually see if there is any existing tickets in place. If there are any existing tickets, then they will send that incident number back to the customer. If there is no existing cases created, then they will create a new case for us. Now pause and think about this particular scenario. This entire workflow is manual and it depends on a lot of human judgment, and it also involves multiple steps and decisions. Now the question is, can we automate this entire workflow? Not just summarizing the email, but actually understanding it, making decisions, taking some actions, and completing the end-to-end process. That is exactly where Agentic AI comes into the picture. Agentic AI is not just about generating the text. It is about building systems that can break down a problem, reason through it, decide what to do, and take necessary actions and complete the end-to-end workflow for us. It is almost like how a human would operate. Now let's clarify something very important. Many people often confuse with deterministic systems with agentic systems. Now let's understand what is deterministic system. In a deterministic system, we define rules in advance. For example, the scenario that we actually discussed now. If the email contains urgent, it's a high priority. If the issue type is payment, route it to the payment stream. And always create a Jira ticket or a support ticket for that. That system simply follows predefined rules. It does not make any decisions on top of it. And this is called deterministic behavior because we are actually predefining all the rules inside the code. And it's not actually bad, and a lot of systems requires this predefined rules, like especially when you're dealing with payments and a lot of policy centric systems that needs to follow a deterministic behavior. Now compare this with an agentic system. Instead of fixed roles, we provide the email, context, and examples or past data. Like if we create a previous tickets based on the information that was provided by previous customers, we'll provide that information and examples, and we feed that information to the large language model. Now the system can actually understand the intent, interprets the situation well, and decides the priority based on the previous tickets, and it selects to the correct team. Like if the issue is related to the network team, it will select the network team. If the issue is related to the payments, they will actually route it to the payment stream, and also it determines the next action. So this particular flow is dynamic in nature, and this is the autonomous behavior within a controlled system. If you look at the key difference between deterministic and agentic systems, deterministic systems follow predefined rules. Agentic systems decide based on the context and reasoning provided. Now, based on the scenario that we discussed, let's map everything to the three core concepts in Agentic AI. One is tools, orchestration, and state. Tools allow the system to take actions. In our example, reading an email, creating Jira tickets, search existing tickets, storing results, and tools actually enable the execution. The second one is orchestration. Orchestration helps to break down the problems into steps. and it will actually manage the entire workflow, ensure it is completely end-to-end executed. It basically guides the system what the next step, which action to take. The last one and the most important one is state. State is how the system remembers. We store information like summaries, classifications, ticket history. So basically state is, we'll actually discuss in detail about in the next video, but we have databases in place to actually store that information so that whenever we need, we can actually provide that information as a context to the agents so that it can take better decisions. Now I'm putting it all together. Now, if you combine everything, tools which will enable actions, orchestration which will guide the execution, state which will provide the memory. Together, they form Agentic AI system. Now, in this session, we understood the difference between generative and Agentic AI and explored real-world manual workflow. And we also understood deterministic versus autonomous behavior, and we introduced tools, orchestration, and state. In the next session, we'll take this same use case and start building it step by step by using LangGraph. See you in the next video.